That doesn't cut it.
What do you mean?
Live from New York. It's a show that
I can't believe it.
has a cast on like a child.
Oh, like, what do you want from
Just
me?
saying.
What do you want from me?
I'm going to sign it after
So am I.
Greg Jennings wouldn't let us sign his. You guys. Can
His was cool.
You guys can definitely sign mine. His was cool.
Yeah.
Why? What? It was the exact
If you're like
same
this,
thing.
it's cool.
He was more incapacitated. I'm out here fighting, buddy.
Okay. It's first things first. Today, we start with the newest Man of Steel, Nick Wright, who's going to have an iron plate.
Okay.
Justin Fields now in Pittsburgh, but it doesn't look like there's going to be a quarterback competition. I guess so, sure. Which frankly seems strange. Russ tweeting that the quarterback room is about to be fire. That's good. So we'll start with you, Nick. Should Russ be the Week 1 starter?
If it were up to me, no, but I'm certain he will be. And I think quarterback competitions are slightly overstated by the media because of the lack of time. Because if you have two new guys and you're going to need to get at least one of them up to speed,
I buy that.
They are going to need so much more time in your offseason with the ones. You know what I mean? With the starters getting the reps. So I think a quarterback competition with an incumbent and someone brought in to compete with them is different than this situation where both guys are totally new. And if you give both guys, 45% of the first team reps with the other third quarterback getting 10% of them, neither's going to be ready. So I do think it will be Russell Wilson Week 1. But as confident as I am that it's Russell Week 1, I believe it would be Justin Week 18 and the weeks leading up to it. I do not think Russell Wilson will keep this job, but I think he will start with this job on a very short leash. And because I am much more pessimistic about Russ's ability in any offense, much less the Steelers' offense right now with their lack of overall skill position talent, I don't think he'll keep the job, but I think it will be his Week 1 job.
Well, one, I think they do have skill position talent. You got Freiermuth at tight end. You got Pickens. I know they got rid of Deontay Johnson, but you got Pickens. You got two good running backs. So I think they got pretty good talent. I agree with you. Russ will what I say is he should enter training camp as the number one on the depth chart. Now, if he gets beat out, and like you said, it's hard to have a real
hard to beat him out.
because they also don't go as hard as they used to with tackling and things like that. So, but if he were to, he would have to really just completely outshine Russ passing, because we know running, he's going to be a better runner. But if he were to come out with accuracy, which he's had trouble with accuracy, I'm talking about Fields, but he would have to look so much better in the air than Russ. And Russ would have to look essentially washed for me to move him ahead of Justin. I mean, I didn't think Russ looked washed last year. And so I think if he's number one on the depth chart, if it's even or close, maybe Justin's a little better, you start with Russ. Because also, Nick, I think it's easier to move from Russ to Justin than Justin to Russ. If Russ were to not start, and if it was a close competition, he doesn't start in the regular season, I think he's upset. His mood could ruin the locker room. He would say the right thing, but it could work against the locker room. Whereas if he starts off, I agree, short leash, plays 3 or 4 games and looks bad through the first 4 games, then he's benched. The locker room's not like, oh, well, we got this guy who's won a Super Bowl. He's a veteran. They saw, oh, he wasn't good. So I think that would be a smoother transition. So, look, we'll see what Russ does. But I do think he'll start. And if he can hold it, he can hold it. If not, go to Justin.
So go ahead, Wildes.
No, you go.
Do we agree that Justin Fields should be at the place in his career where he's still improving?
Yeah.
Theoretically, it should be.
Absolutely.
All right. Do we agree that Russ is in the place in his career where he's clearly declining?
Well, I think he improved from 2 years ago to last year.
Sure.
And I think he could – now, he's not going to get back to what he was in Seattle at his best, but he could improve on last year.
And you and I obviously feel differently about where he was last year and how well or poorly he played. Point I'm making is this. Can we just show what these two players have been post-Justin's rookie season? So since Russ left Seattle and, since Justin wasn't a rookie, Russ, yes, has more wins and a slightly higher completion percentage. They have both been sacked the same amount of times. Their yards per game is the same. Their touchdown to turnover ratio is essentially the same. and Justin is nearly a full decade younger.
Yeah.
So for those reasons, I think it is, and I don't know where you stand on this one, Brew. I think it is far more likely, because they're both going to be on expiring contracts. I know there was some question like, the Steelers will have to make a decision on Justin Fields' fifth-year option. There is no chance they're picking up that option because they have to make that decision before the year starts,
Really?
Brew. Yeah, they have to make that decision this offseason. They're not going to pick up a $20+ million guaranteed thing for Justin Fields. There's no chance.
I'm not saying they will, but I could see them doing it because they're looking at him as their guy of the future. And what's the other route? Like they're going to be,
how long is
at
this
the worst,
future?
they're going to be mediocre, right? So you're not going to get like a high draft pick.
So I guess the point I was making is I think it is close to a 0% chance they pick up his fifth-year option. But despite that, I think there is far greater likelihood that Justin Fields is on the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2025 than there is Russell Wilson is on the Steelers in 2025.
You would hope so if you're a Steelers fan.
And so I just think Justin will ultimately be the starting quarterback and will finish the season as the starting quarterback. And how he plays in that stretch is what is going to determine if they bring him back next season, you know what I mean, to be their long-term starter.
I think they hope clearly that he plays well and he's their starter for the next several years.
Well, from what they're saying, they hope he does not play.
Well, I thought
they're
Russ
making
is
Russ
that's
as
what I'm
the
saying.
starter.
Russ is the
Well,
starter.
they're making Russ the starter.
You could start Russ. Now, look, if Russ has a great year, they make the playoffs, make a nice run, sure. But if Russ, I think they want to see what Justin's made of out in practice as well, because it's good for him to sit at the feet of, in a great organization, a great head coach, and a Super Bowl champion. Like, this could be good for him to learn. I mean, Jordan Love, I know he started Justin, and he would be going to the bench. But still, it was good for Jordan Love, and we saw great improvement from him from early in his career to coming in finally as a starter. So why couldn't you see that with Fields?
Okay. Steelers offense since Big Ben retired. I tried to find, like, the inflection point. This is where they're at, almost bottom of the league in absolutely everything. They've had several different plans here, which including you sign Trubisky, you drafted Pickett, you start Trubisky, you start Pickett. Okay, Pickett gets hurt, you bring back Trubisky, you bring in Rudolph. Rudolph's now gone. He loses the playoff game. Russ is here. Russ calls Kenny Pickett on Friday. We ran the clip of Russ saying, yeah, talk to Kenny Pickett. We were like, yep, let's get it. Let's be great. Later on that day when the show would like Kenny Pickett's gone and Justin Fields is in, it just feels like a lot of tumult in Pittsburgh. And as you talk about Justin Fields, if you talk about Jordan Love, the fact that I feel like it's a little bit of a Packers story, that they went from Aaron Rodgers to Jordan Love seamlessly.
Well, right, after doing the same thing Favre to Rodgers. But
yeah.
that's
and this is just so messy, and we still don't know what's going to happen.
When you don't have a good quarterback.
No, and it's also what life is like after your longtime franchise quarterback steps away. This is why I felt like Belichick was getting unfairly maligned the last few years. What has the Patriots plan been post-Brady? It would look a lot like
very
that.
Similar. Let's get Cam. Let's draft somebody.
Mac. Get rid of this guy. What has the Saints plan looked like post-Drew Brees?
Even weirder.
A lot of the same thing. Even a worse quarterback than those guys, obviously. What does the Falcons plan look like post-Matt Ryan? A lot of weirdness. If you are a good enough organization to not bottom out when your franchise quarterback goes away, you're kind of screwed.
That's a good take.
You know what I mean? Like
you do what the Packers did. You draft
early
and may upset your starter.
Correct. And also be fortunate with the Rodgers case that he's available in the 20s, with the Jordan Love case. And with Jordan, I love how Jordan played at the end of last year and in the playoff game as well. He is still something of an unknown quantity. You know what I mean? As far as
he's got to do it another year.
Right, how people felt about him the first. The Colts were amazing with Peyton Manning. Then he misses 1 year. They're so bad they get Andrew Luck.
Yep.
If that team was good enough to have gone 8-8 the year Peyton was hurt, they could, you know what I mean? They could have entered this same treadmill of mediocrity where you can't replace the guy.
It's weird.
Wouldn't you say, though, that, they went from having no legitimate starting quarterback.
Now it's an interesting
to possibly two starting quarterbacks.
I don't think that's a good thing.
Why not?
What do you mean?
I think it's strange to have two quarterbacks. I think it's like
they
Russ
don't know if the second one can play, Justin Fields.
They don't know if either can play. They don't know if either can play.
If Russ, let's say they had Russ last year and doing exactly what he did, 26 touchdowns, 8 picks, top 6.
They would have had the exact same
rating.
season.
No, they
would have won a play.
10 and 7. They may have won more than 10 games.
See, so I don't.
They had the worst quarterback play in the league by a mile and still won.
Right, and I understand that. And the Broncos, and again, we disagree about Russ's play last year. My point is, the Steelers last year, with Russell Wilson at quarterback or the rotating cast of characters they had, their ceiling was going to be getting bounced in round 1. And that's what it was. Like, if they had a great quarterback, it would be different. But Russ or Pickett, Mason, Trubisky, any of those guys, their ceiling was going to be bouncing around.
Okay. Check in on the Bears side of things. Who reportedly turned down a better offer for Fields. Courtney Corrin writing on ESPN, the Bears had an additional offer with stronger draft capital from a team with an established starter, per source, but chose to send Fields to Pittsburgh with the hopes of putting the 25-year-old in a position to continue his development, first as a backup to Wilson and eventually as a starter. Your reaction, bro?
Well, what was better? 5th round, 6th round that's not conditional where it could get better? Like straight 6th round pick? I mean, if it was that close, then I think they did the right thing because you send a message to players, or at least you theoretically do, that, hey, we care about our players and their future. Because there's already the feeling that you did not do right by Justin Fields because you didn't put players around him that could help him win. And he had 2 head coaches, 2 offensive coordinators. So you may not have given him a chance in some people's eyes. So now you do this. Hey, we're looking out for him. If it significantly was better, which I doubt, but let's say somebody's offering a 3rd round pick, then you got to do it.
Correct.
You got to do what's best for your team, regardless.
So I agree with that. So this is the scenario I painted to you before the show, Wildes, because what they got was a 6th in a not this year's draft, next year's draft. That could be a 4,
right,
if he plays more than half the games. Let's say Buffalo called, because we know Buffalo wanted a backup quarterback because they signed Mitch Trubisky inexplicably to more than the league minimum. But set that aside. Say Buffalo called and said, we'll give you our 5th round pick this year for Justin Fields. I don't think it's bad business for Chicago to say, yeah, we're not doing it. The gap between the value on those is not enough, given the fact he is clearly very popular in the locker room. And I understand it's business, not personal. When people talk about the Bears doing Justin Fields wrong, sometimes that stuff bothers me. In this specific case, and I thought Danny, when he was on Friday, made a good point. When you look at the blow-by-blow of it, year 1, Justin, you're not going to play. Andy Dalton is. Andy Dalton gets dinged. He's all of a sudden starting week 3. Year 2, we want to be the worst team in the league. We're going to trade Roquan Smith. We're going to take all our dead cap right now, which I thought was the long-term smart thing for the team. Brutal for the player, right? And then year 3, all of a sudden, it's like, okay, we're kind of ready to be good, but we're also changing the offense on the fly. Those things, I understand why they would be like, you know what? He handled himself, aside from one press conference, right? His teammates like him. Let's not send him somewhere where he has no chance of being the starter unless, like to Bruce's point, the return is so good, we have to put business ahead of it. And so this part makes sense to me in a way that I know there had been some reporting like, oh, they had a 2 or a 3 offered to them. If they did, they turned that down back when they thought they were still going to be able to get that. Not because they didn't have
that wasn't available now.
Exactly right. That offer was gone when they took this one and not presented like, well, they could have taken a 3 this week and instead they took this. That I do not believe at all.
Okay. Meanwhile, Caleb to the Bears, basically done.
I'm not a professional investment broker and I don't give investment advice, but minus 4,000 would mean you get 2.5% return on your money in 6 weeks. That's better than any stock you're going to get, America, if you can put that, because it is a 100% chance he is drafted by the Chicago Bears, number 1. And so minus 4,000, you bet 4,000, make $100. Can't do that guaranteed in the market. But now to the point. The Bears are better than people think, and they were last year. And they have since added things. So the Bears, Eberflus would tell you his defense can't function unless it has at least one A-level pass rusher to then have everything rotate off the back end of it. So how did the Bears look once they added Montez Sweat, who is not, that's not adding prime Von Miller, but it's adding a good player.
Good.
All of a sudden, they were fine. It's not like they were great. They were fine. They outscored their opponents. They had top 10 points per game and opponents' yards per game defense. They have now added to DJ Moore, who with quarterbacking that evidently was only worth a 6th-round pick, did this last year. Keenan Allen, and Keenan did that in only 13 games. Now, I think Keenan is going to be less productive because of his age,
right.
But you then add the fact that in addition to Caleb Brew, they are going to, with the 9th pick of the draft, either be able to add Rome Odunze, Brock Bowers, with the 2nd tackle off the board, or the 1st or 2nd defensive player of any position off the board.
Very good.
And they added Swift. So I expect the 7-10 Bears, with better quarterbacking, more talent, not the dead cap that had been weighing down the last 2 years, to be a 10 or 11 win team.
Ooh.
So I expect them to make the playoffs.
All right, so you came on strong at the end saying they're going to make the playoffs because this question, I think Nick hacked your computer.
Why?
And threw Dark Horse in there.
Oh, no,
because
it's not
when we talked about it on the phone call
Straight
this
up.
morning, it was are they making the playoffs?
I will pick them to make the playoffs as of now.
So there,
yes,
because they're a dark horse.
I don't believe in dark horse nonsense.
In the
like
hunt, will they be?
No, I'm not in
I-
dark
I-
horse
I-
MVP.
Are they
dark
making
horse.
the playoffs?
Yeah, they'll be
Yes.
in the hunt. But
Sure.
here's the thing.
Yeah.
I think Detroit and Green Bay are definitely making the playoffs. So that's 2 in that division.
They're in.
So I think you like those teams too. If I remember Nick's tiers, I think both of them were pretty high.
Tiers, yeah, but the Bears, I think the Bears were the Bears were quite high as well.
They were high.
The
So
Bears,
if we're
go
gonna have
ahead.
3, I don't think you're saying 3 from that division, but I still think Dallas and Philly. I know I don't have like a strange team in here, but Atlanta I got. And then San Francisco and the Rams.
So you have the same playoffs as last year with Baker out and the Falcons in. That's not going to happen.
Well,
it's just not going to be the same.
We will see.
I mean, but that's it's just not.
You yelled at me when I didn't think Bijan Robinson would be Rookie of the Year.
Okay, all right.
So, I mean, I'm just saying.
And so I just think that let me put it a different way, Brew. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm
I'll
just
let you
saying.
finish.
Which one's not making it? Detroit or Green Bay?
well,
they could have 3 because the NFC's kind of weak. But I think those 2 are definitely.
I almost think you're looking at it from the wrong direction, which is aside from the NFC South, which we think, you know what I mean, could have a division, right?
But Atlanta and Tampa could.
Let me ask it a different way. Let's just say Atlanta's in. If another NFC team that missed the playoffs last year is going to make it, which most years there's at least 2 new per conference, are the Bears not the best bet? The options would be Washington or the Giants, the Bears, and the 4th NFC North team. The Vikings.
The Vikings.
The Vikings,
Yeah,
who don't
they
have a quarterback right now. We said the NFC South. We said New Orleans, Carolina, Atlanta, and then Seattle or Arizona. Like some people might say Seattle. They got a new head coach. If you think there's going to be a bounce back year from Kyler, I get it. My point is, I think the Bears are the best bet.
Dark horse is the right word.
No, they're okay.
Dark horses. Because I don't think Caleb's going to be C.J. Stroud. Now, I think Caleb will be good eventually, but I think this year he'll show promise. He'll make us say, yeah, that was the right pick. But I don't think he's coming in like C.J.
But C.J., I think even if you're right on that, C.J. had to be C.J. because that Texans team was earned the number 2 pick on their own volition. Yeah. That Texans team was awful the year before. They were a 3-win team.
No, I get it, but you're saying because they were bad, he had to be so good.
No, I'm giving C.J. credit. My point is, if the Bears were the typical number 1 pick team, we would expect usually about a 3-win improvement if they draft the right quarterback. My point is a 3-win improvement for the Bears is 10 because they won 7 games last year.
That's not bad.
Yeah.
I'll buy that.
Thank you.
I might buy that.
So really?
I might buy it. It was a good argument.
Who'd you pick to win the NFC
It's a good
last
team.
year?
Oh my gosh, Brew. Who'd you
I'm
pick
just
to
saying.
win the NFC last year?
And they made the playoffs, the Eagles.
Short of the turnovers, we were heading in the right
Kirk
direction.
Cousins' body betrayed him.
Yeah,
everyone knows
betrayed
this.
him, and he's
I got your
back
back
now.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.